the executive decision for now, just because of, then you take one.
We're rolling, Michelle, or you're ready to roll?
No.
By state law, we have to broadcast our meeting, so we won't start till she's broadcasting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just. Actually, I've got a table, yeah, and so all the key insights.
Oh,
This one. It has to be clean.
okay, I will call it order 7:05 p.m. or online, right, Michelle? Oh,
Yes,
I'm sorry, so you have some,
you may take, oh, if you don't.
so, all right, let's start with the pledge of allegiance.
Ready to begin.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty. First up is the consent agenda. The short one. Couple of two leaves and minor modifications to staffing and the minutes.
I'll make.
Aaron, Mullen second. Any more discussion? Any objections? Passing the consent agenda? Seeing none, passes 5-0. As for agenda modifications.
You will notice that we did take one item off this last printed agenda. We were set tonight to approve the intent to award for a transportation contract. There is a what's the word I'm looking for?
Protest.
Protest. It's a protest period, and the date for the protest period ends March 16th. We received a protest. And so we didn't feel in good conscience we could move forward without responding to protests and following the timeline. So we pulled it off the agenda. Both companies know that this is the process we're in. And we'll probably want to look at a meeting early April, just a very brief, to be able to make sure there's either enough front load time to be able to continue contract or to ramp up, depending upon what the final determination.
Okay, so that one's already been reflected. Any other modifications? Okay. Public comment. I see we have two public comments. They're in support of a teacher. We typically don't use public comment to talk about individual employees, but given I'm sure these are in support of, yes, then in that case, I'll go ahead and grant the exception. So, Zane, you go ahead, stay there or come forward or come.
It takes 3.5 minutes to read.
It's typically 3 minutes, so if you can get through it 3.5, I'll give you. Okay.
I was recently made aware that the Philomath School District does not intend to renew the contract with special education teacher Candace Manhattan. I have 7 children currently attending various schools within the Philomath School District. 3 of my children are on IEPs and receive special education to some degree. My oldest daughter, Cecily, who is now 12 years old and attending Philomath Middle School, has a traumatic brain injury and shows characteristics of autism spectrum disorder. New school years and new teachers and new classrooms have always been a difficult time for Cecily, as I'm sure is the case with many students. September of 2023 was no different. However, Candace was able to connect with Cecily and make her feel comfortable and welcome in a way that up to that point no other teacher had. Other teachers did eventually find ways to get Cecily to participate in class, but not the way Candace did. From day one, Candace found something that helped Cecily feel comfortable and welcome. She helped Cecily celebrate being different and unique when Cecily had bad days. Candace persevered through Cecily's unruly behavior From attempts to elope from the middle school, from the elementary school, to lashing out physically at Candace herself. Candace helped Cecily to transition from abbreviated school days where may only attend for a few hours a day, to being able to attend class all day long. A milestone that at one point I didn't think Cecily may ever achieve. Most days, Cecily actually enjoys school now as a sixth grader and continues to benefit from having had Candace as a teacher. This year, my son Declan found himself in Candace's classroom as a second grader. School is a struggle for Declan emotionally. Declan has struggled to moderate his emotions in class when he's frustrated and has often become disruptive, aggressive, and resorted to profane language and violence. 3 weeks ago, when the team overseeing Declan's individual education plan began to doubt that there was much more that could be done to help Declan in the classroom setting, Candace was adamant that there was more she could do, and Candace has absolutely delivered on her adamancy. For the past 2.5 weeks, Declan has participated in class without aggressive behavior or any violence. He's been less disruptive, and he's been dramatically different at home for the positive change in his behavior. I wholeheartedly believe that Candace's passion to help enhance the school experience for students has been the driving factor for 2 of my children's dramatic improvement. My kids are not cookie cutter kids. We celebrate being unique, being different, and being proud to be an individual. And Candace isn't a cookie cutter teacher, but where I believe it matters most, and I believe most parents would agree, Candace excels at finding what will best help her students achieve their highest potential and displays a level of determination that I can only hope all of my children will experience from their teachers in the future. For the benefit of my son Declan, as well as future educational well-being of the students of Philomath Elementary School, who also may have need for special education services, I hope that the board will reconsider their decision not to remove Ms. Van Patten's contract. Being a parent with kids with special needs can be a struggle, and we need the support of teachers who are as passionate about our children's success as we are as parents. And I know without a doubt that Candace has that passion and determination. And in the case of Cecily and Declan, she has proven it. I can only speculate as to why the board would choose not to renew Ms. Van Patten's contract. However, based on what I personally witnessed from the success and improvement she has supported in Cecily and Declan, it can't be from a lack of performance as a teacher, which leaves me wondering what could possibly be more important than that.
Thank you. Crosby Walsh.
My name is Crosby Walsh. I'm the farm manager at Gathering Together Farm. I'm the father of 2 students at Philomath Elementary, and I love this community that we live in. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've come to offer my perspective on the potential non-renewal of the contract with my wife, Amy Van Patten, teacher of life skills in the special education department at Philomath Elementary. Due to moral and spiritual conviction, Candace has chosen for over a decade to serve the disadvantaged and the most challenged in the community. She has done this despite being beaten and humiliated on almost a daily basis. She has cared deeply for those young people, for the kids of this community, as many families can attest. 11 years ago, while driving to supervise the in-home education of a disabled child, Candace was struck by a driver who was on his phone traveling 60 miles an hour. This left her with a disability of traumatic brain injury. Once she recovered, and despite the challenges she faced moving forward, she continued to work as a special education teacher with a new understanding of what it means to have a disability. It is my perspective that Candace has a nearly impossible job. There are so many people to serve. I know she focuses on serving her students. In this position, she needs to satisfy administrators that hold her professional fate in their hands. People whose expectations change and increase over time. Instead of recognizing her experience, expertise, and conviction, they focus on the shortcomings of her and her staff. No one can fully succeed while being dissected under a microscope. But despite this fact, she has given so much of herself to try to meet the requirements of the administration. I have witnessed many, many nights of Candace working after school hours to try to meet all of the scheduling and paperwork aspects of her job. I wish you could see the effort that she has put in. She works with parents who are struggling with a difficult hand and need support and guidance. She wrote the thesis of her first of 2 master's degrees on the struggles and adjustment of parents of children with autism. She works hard to motivate her staff, who in my opinion are underpaid and undermotivated to do the work that they do, work that is some of the most physically challenging of any in the district. Candace regularly puts on her own body in harm's way to protect her staff, coworkers, and students. I have seen the result countless times over more than a decade of her career. Ice packs and urgent care visits. Injuries that can sometimes impair her ability to complete a portion of her duties. At the same time of all of this, her topmost priority is including and educating the kids who have some of the greatest challenges among us. Candace has always prioritized the people who need it the most, her students. Trying to keep them safely included in growing on their educational journey and their journey to becoming engaged members of our community. Administrative deadlines are easy to point to. Positive growth in the life skills of young, complex minds is harder to quantify. I wonder which of these two factors you weigh more heavily in this decision. A decision to not renew would not only be a devastating blow to my family, but also to the families of present and future students in the life skills program. We all have a job to do. If we're lucky, my job is to create food for this community. Administrators' jobs are to have important meetings and make sure documents are completed on time. Your job here is to represent the people of your district and make the final sign-off on the bigger decisions for our community. So before you make that final decision, I hope that you keep in mind the bigger picture and to do your best to give a fair chance to everyone, even those with challenges. Just like my wife does every day for the learners at Williams Elementary.
Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. And move on to our reports. ASB.
Hello, I'm Lucy. And I'm Laura. And we're here to report out how ASB is doing. So this last week we did this thing called Pop of Kindness. So you could buy a soda and send it to a friend or a classmate throughout the week and ASB would deliver it. So that was very popular. We sold probably like at least 30 cans of soda, which is really exciting. And then also today was the last day of Try for Try 2. So we're preparing for third Try events, which include a lot of exciting things to end the year. And another time is we are very excited to be doing field day again this year, along with our other homegrown events. And especially this next week, we have a March Madness tournament going on, which is going to be 3v3 basketball for any student teams who want to sign up and incorporate March Madness college basketball into the high school. Thank you.
Play tomorrow morning. I do have, before you move on, Maggie sent me a note. Because she had talked with us about setting up the Google form at the high school. And she said that they're starting to get some input. She said that a couple of the things were multiple submissions talking about hate speech, racism, homophobia problems at the high school, especially between peers. Most people say it makes them feel unsafe and unappreciated. The other one that she highlighted was multiple submissions talking about the boys' bathroom having no doors and it making them uncomfortable. And part of that is if you leave the screws in the door instead of taking them out, the doors would probably stay there more often. But that's been an issue. And then they highlighted an OSAA thing that would be taken up there, but it sounds like this is getting some input from students, which is nice. Like overall, I will share on her behalf.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there anything good? I know one of them. Allison Wonderland.
Maggie's working with that.
That's underway right now. Okay, our association reports.
Hi. Here, now I had a baby. Yay. So 9 years old. So, sorry, last month we brought up the concerns around the transparency in the new evaluation process for certain sectors by D+. Our lack of a district-wide plan in case of immigration customs and enforcement came to our district and forecast on the budget last year. I'm happy to be able to express our appreciation for that. Susan and the other items we made for the meeting. Updating the district's emergency procedures and how complex that is to plan for. I'm really what. So I really appreciate you hearing moving forward. So thank you for that. We haven't met with Susan because of the move, because of spring break, the union hasn't met with Susan yet. So we'll wait to hear further information about the evaluation process for next year and how that will hear more soon. We also understand that, next year, really, it will be difficult with tightening of the budget. So as staff retiring, decisions are made about hiring or reshuffling staff. We ask that hiring decisions are made soon, so we can get the best possible candidates. And then we work collaboratively, you and admin and current staff in order to fill the gaps to best meet the right students with.
Superintendent,
Your packet. Just to acknowledge that we have classified employees week that went through and, appreciate all our classified employees, and there was a lot of celebration that went around. Our academic calendar committee, we actually put out our survey of a couple of questions, related to the 27-28 calendar. And, we're getting good response on that. And so we hope to be able to bring that back in April for approval. The Oregon Exclusion Day is about shots. Students who don't get appropriate immunizations, and in talking to our nurses who shepherd it every year, there were no exclusions in Columbus this year. So, we didn't have to keep any students out of school.
what percent are vaccinated, what percent?
That I don't know. Where did that go? The report is in there. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'll just let you ask questions.
You want to look through that?
Thank you. I'm trying to get used to a Chromebook. Columbus 2050, the opening, Tom and I participated, in a meeting with, SSW Consulting. And we also, after our budget committee meeting last week, came back down here and finished off the evening in the visioning workshop. And so we'll continue to keep you updated. It was nice to be able to just kind of take a look at the full history and some different pieces of that. We've had students involved again in regional competitions for the Oregon Battle of the Books. We get lots of students involved at multiple levels. We had no students this year make it out of pool play, but we had a lot of activity in the pool play at the regional competitions. And it's just nice to see students who are saying, and I'm coming back next year, because I want to be able to do that. Am I wrong?
Elementary kids, maybe this.
Sweet 16, my bad.
Yeah, you have been.
Okay, it's there. Summer learning, we're looking at high school credit recovery being the last 2.5 weeks in June. Extended school year for our special education students will take place in August, and our lit camp will also take place in August. Yeah,
Will the Bridges program function again? Middle school, high school, the Bridges program?
yes, it will. It will. And that'll be August as well. Thank you. And then the important dates that I threw in there to remember.
Questions to the superintendent? Okay. Our financial report. Confirmed.
Reports are in the packet, and I spent an hour with you last week going over budget and current year stuff, so I won't say much. If you have any questions, there's not a whole lot else in my report. Susan has some more legislative information, I think, to share later, so that's about the only other thing I have.
Do you have any update on the state funding yet?
Yeah.
Maybe be much. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. You could watch it on. We've heard, we have our state school estimate for 26-27. It's about what I anticipated it would be. And we did hear that the local option equalization grant, the one that we were concerned that may get cut, we should get the full allocation for this year, so there wouldn't be any concern for this year. And next year, they haven't told us exactly. It may be reduced for next year.
So this.
Yeah, this year we're stable.
That was the good news.
Yes, that was good news.
Anything else for our regional director? Business manager, I guess. Okay,
All of the above.
yeah, very interchangeable. All right, I have this item on here, school board liaison check-in. I brought this up last time. Just want to encourage you to be in contact with your principal of your building.
I was wonderful. I got to spend a really lovely morning with Garth over at Lake County. So it was really great.
Excellent.
You're doing some really good stuff, and it was exciting to see.
Aaron, you were at the high school, right? Yep. This is just a general nudge.
Yeah.
And Brian, you're at the middle school?
Yep.
And
All that to do with.
and you with the
I'm.
other. Right.
I was a bit about it. And it. It's been like a really neat thing to see, that whole staff. Yeah. I think we'll come together and
Communicate if they have had sit downs, and if not, encourage you to do so. All right, moving on to item number 3, discussion items. First one is our strategic plan, objective update. So as we talked about last time, we have our 5 objectives. We're going to look at them on a rotating basis. Susan and I checked, and she wanted to cover attendance today. So, well, I guess, and did you have any, you had flushed it out more with your staff. Did you want to discuss, that was where we had the overview on here. Did you want to?
Yeah, well, with the overview, and of course I didn't, this is my other reason for Google, is I didn't download that document to Google, so I can't show it to you. That we have put in, what is the desired state and what is the current reality. And so we're starting to fill in those current reality pieces with information that matters, rather than, just pieces of, what we think or what we feel. And so what I had added into that was information about students who are regular attenders, in filling in that slot. And what our next determination is when we get together as a group of administrators is being able to say, now that we're seeing this as a whole, what do we set our goals and what do we set the goal and target at, to be able to do it? And so it was interesting to be able to see everything everywhere, within this. And so, what I've got, and I want to try and figure out how I enlarge this baby.
Control plus, usually,
What was that?
control plus. At the top row,
Oh, there
there
we
are
go.
1, 2, 3, 4 buttons in the top left, will make it big. So on your keyboard.
Oh,
What you just did.
yeah.
We'll keep doing.
I don't know, try to screen on the keyboard.
Oh, I see. There you go. So what I did was I took a look at what is an attendance percentage. So when we look at an attendance percentage, and this was by school by grade, what is our daily percentage of students who are attending school? Has nothing to do with regular attendance. It's just the percentage. And this is the common thing for a lot of schools to look at, because it's you know, which school is it over 90, which school, which class is it over 90%? And trying to win around that. because that can also help the chronic absenteeism or making sure that we have those goals set. But this is the nice way of being able to look at it. And so when you can see, for instance, from the beginning of the year, we've got Blodgett kindergartens at 94.47%. Now we have to remember that our Blodgett numbers are small. So the farther we get into it, actually when you get to Blodgett and the Academy and Kings Valley to some degree, Kings Valley is a little bit more acceptable because they're looking at like 20 students in a grade level. But at Philomath Academy, you're looking at lower numbers, and at Blodgett, you're looking at lower numbers. So your percentages are a little bit skewed. In those situations, it's really nice to be able to take a look at individual students, because you can really be able to glean from that, why are students not here? And what does that really look like? So when we look at Clemens, for instance, at kindergarten, their attendance percentage is at a 92.49%, 92.06 for first grade. So you can see that through elementary and into middle and most of high school, we're seeing some success in 90% or higher of an attendance percentage. Our seniors at the high school are our lows at 86.94, and our academy is in the 80s there. Kings Valley, with the exception of a couple, are also in 80s. So that gives us just a quick bluff.
This is cumulative year to date,
Yep. Yeah.
and the table at the bottom is last year,
No, the table at the bottom is gonna be just February.
just, okay,
Yeah.
so the top one is year to date.
Yeah.
For Philomath Academy, is that kids that are coming in person or kids that are?
It is both.
Okay.
And so
So
what
as
the
long as they
next,
check in the school.
yeah, the next step to do that, is gonna be to see where the splits are of those students who are, in a hybrid model. Versus those, we've got a couple that are involved in Beyond Philomath Academy, which primarily puts them doing classes at LB. And the students that are coming in for the majority of time. So that's what we want to do with Philomath Academy now, is how do we spread that out to be able to say which students are represented. So if we took a look at those students that are just coming in every day, is their attendance percentage higher than those students that are involved in a hybrid, for example? So it gives us different ways to be able to slice and dice the information. So what I did was, the next thing I did was I did a group for just February. And
For a lot of sickness.
exactly, and that's why I did it in terms of picking February, was now we've got Clemens down just below 90, but we've got them at 89, 85. And so we're starting to see the middle school in the 80s for just February. And I did that intentionally because we know that there's a lot of kids that are sick. And so if we look at things month by month, which we can do, we start a different set of trends to then be able to say, what is that attributed to? So that we know what it is we need to be able to think about in that way. So that's kind of the look at overall attendance percentage. When we look at regular attenders, and that's those students that are at 90% or higher, you start to see that, and I'll look at Clemens because of the numbers at Blodgett and the numbers at Philomath Academy are small. You've got Clemens that was at a 92% attendance rate, and they're at 72.84 with students who are regular attendance. So that's the percentage of students who attend school 90% of the time or more. Those ranges go from 100% when you look at individual students, all the way down. We've got some that are at 45, some that are at 52. And so that's where, when we can start to look at individual students to drill into this, but this is the data we've determined that even though we look at attendance percentage, because it's easier for kids in classrooms to be able to gravitate to that, this is the information that we really want to get to in terms of being able to look at increasing those kids who are in school more often than not.
So we are calibrated. So when you see 72.84%, call that 73%.
Yep.
That means 17% of the kids are missing at least one day every 2 weeks.
Yep,
Every 2 weeks, they're out.
Yeah.
for a day.
yep,
Yeah, and again, it's an average, so there's kids who are probably out 1 or 2 days every single week. And there's others who are just out, once a month or whatever. It's always, it's a huge issue, right? That
Yep.
almost 20% of our kids are literally missing 1 to 10 days.
right. And the high school at Plymouth Academy has more students in it. And so when you look at that percent of regular attenders, and again, we want to be able to split it out. To be able to take a look at which ones are in versus which ones are in a hybrid version of some in, some online. And really be able to tease those figures down. And then when we look at King Valley, there are some grade levels that are sitting at 45, 50. That we really want to think about is where are we concerned with that? So what I did after taking that was I put CPS and PES in a chart, even though we know kids move from different schools, that said, at kindergarten, the attendance rate is 92.49. The attendance, or those that are regular attenders, is 72.84. So you can see visually how the attendance rate moves K through 5 versus how does it move with those students who are regular attenders. And you can see the notice of gap between the two. So those are the things that we're looking at, but it's really wanting that regular attender to be able to move up. So that's where our focus is. And it's taken kind of looking at this to be able to say, oh, so that's what, this is what it is. And then I did the same thing for the middle school and the high school. Of what are 6th grade, 7th grade, what is the rate, which is the top blue, and what are the percentage of regular attenders. So you can see the differences and what we want to try to do. With the high school as seniors, that's not uncommon, but it's the other thing we have to look at is if I have an open period, first period, might I be less inclined to come to second or third? Just because that's the way my schedule works. And so we're starting to take a look at some of those to be able to really ferret out some of the reasons.
When you look at 12th grade, if you were to add back in the kids that were going like LB for classes, what would is that a significant number?
No, it's not huge. But it does have some value, which is one of the reasons that we get in and take a look at. So what does that mean for individual students? I remember my time at the elementary school, one of the things that I would do is take a look and see, and it's like, well, this kid's been out for, their family got a chance for a 2-week vacation somewhere that, that's the reason. Or this student broke their leg and has been home or somewhere else so you can start to see some of what, the actualities are. So then it's kind of like, so what? What do we look at and what do we do? And so a couple of resources that we have running. One of them is this Attendance Works, and I'll send this to you, is an incredible website that talks about chronic absenteeism and has resources and all kinds of information available. And it's one of the resources we look at. The National Superintendents Association also has an Oregon branch for an attendance group that meets, and our assistant principals are a part of that group. They're the ones that deal primarily with the attendance, and so they get to look that way. Measure 98, which is our High School Success Act, has also had a series of the importance of attendance at high school, for which LBL, our regional ESD, has also been supportive. So there's 3 key resources right now that we are taking a look at to be able to provide supports of how do we make this better. So the interesting part about the problem, when you see that chronic absence, missing 10% or more of school days due to absence for any reason, excused, unexcused, suspension, can translate into students having difficulty learning to read by third grade, achieving in middle school, and graduating from high school. We know that in terms of, excuse me, research and information. Measure 98, the high school success, they talk about students who are not on track with credits in their freshman year and students who don't attend school are incredibly more likely not to graduate from high school. So it's huge. We also know children living in poverty are 2 to 3 times more likely to be chronically absent and face the most harm. So that's when we can start to say, how do we look at how to disaggregate? It's harder for us right now to do that because we used to have direct certifications for free and reduced lunch, and then others filled out applications. We don't have the applications anymore because everybody eats free. And so we've been playing with a multiplication factor that the State Department will provide for that, but it doesn't tell us who the individual kids are. And the other thing we've done is we put out a family income survey, of which I don't even remember off the top of my head what the percentage of return on that was. Actually pretty good, but we're trying to find ways to be able to help us to know that information so that we can move forward.
Says on in your third paragraph there that food insecurity, I would think the free lunch, that would be an incentive for the free breakfast and lunch. Right?
Yeah, breakfast lunch makes a difference.
So I would think that'd be an incentive, and this shows up there as a challenge. Also.
Yeah, it's taken directly from their webpage that if there is food insecurity, if there are programs or schools that don't have food available, that's a problem.
Okay, I thought this
Yeah.
was something you and your staff came up with. This
No.
is okay.
No, this stuff I took directly from the website to be able to provide the research information. Yeah, but we are fortunate to be able to have free meals for all the kids, because there are some kids, I believe, come to school because they can eat. And that's the driver. So then they've also put on their website 10 facts about school attendance. So the interesting one, attendance work. Yep. Yep. Absenteeism in the first month of school can predict poor attendance throughout the school year. Half the students who miss 2 to 4 days in September go on to miss nearly a month of school. So, you know, the 10 facts are things that we look at that we are hopeful will be the things that encourage our intervention. And so what is it that we decide to do? There are some schools that give incentives for good attendance. And then the question becomes, is a candy bar the reason that, and I'm being facetious, is a candy bar the thing that's gonna make the attendance picture better?
That's what it takes.
Yeah, and so, but that's what we look
If you
at.
don't take that off the table.
Right, is it moving the needle? And so those are the things that we want to take a look at. Then the last part, much like our interventions in our multi-tiered systems of support, where you also see tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, what are the things that we do for all families and all students? What are, as far as a foundation, what about universal prevention for everybody? And then you've got, what is the early intervention for students missing that 10 to 19% or students missing 20% or more for a higher level of intervention? So those are the things that we're also looking to plug in to say, we know we've got students in all these levels. What are we doing to be able to move the dial in any of those categories to be able to keep us moving forward? The interesting part of this is the research tends to say moving the needle, your best target are those students that are between 80 and 90% attenders. It's not going back to 45 or the 52. It's really what do we do? I mean, it doesn't mean we ignore them, but what do we do to really try and target and specifically reach out to those students that are below the threshold by 5 or 10%, and really make that kind of the tug to be able to do things.
Because that is the predominant, that's where we're gonna pick up the most percentage,
Yeah.
not because that's necessarily going to like incentivize the children that aren't coming locally.
Yeah.
So we still need to figure out.
Yep.
That one part.
And so what this does is this has opened up a plethora of information, which has been a good thing for all of us. To be able to say, we've looked at it in spots and pieces in each of our independent schools. What does it say as a whole? And what does it look like, and how do we share the ideas of the kinds of things we're doing to be able to be supported? And then our next step is to be able to come back and say, here is the target we are establishing, based on what we've got as a foundation. And here is the data that we know we're gonna need to be able to make decisions. And we're not gonna collect extra stuff that we don't need to, or that doesn't matter or doesn't influence, but in this particular targeted area of the plan, this is where we wanna hang our hat and what it is we need. So it's been just in the process of naming it and assigning it as an objective has opened doors in good ways that I thought would happen, but I didn't anticipate quite the level of, I don't know if intrigue's the right word or not, but the way that we move forward with that. That's the idea of looking at each of those objectives, is to be able to really say, what is it that matters? What is the information? What do we do? And how do we take a look at what's moving the dial?
So on that, I'll just say this was great introduction of the data, analyzing the problem before us. I guess my request then would be, you know, in our next board meeting to have you and a member of your team and you want present what are the programs or actions or
Absolutely.
staffing or that you want to, yeah.
Yep.
And you and I can talk about it, you know, what the other objectives we might look at next month, but I think we keep this one moving. Because I know there's already programs in place. I know the elementary has plenty from being the liaison to the elementary. Eric and I have talked about that. I know the middle school has them, et cetera. So at least start with what's already
Absolutely.
happening, and then what are new things we might be looking at based on this.
Yep.
Your analysis.
And I know this might be a big thing. I would like to point out that one of our other strategic goals is to ensure that every child is involved.
Yes.
And this was such an easy,
Yeah, I had the exact thought 10 minutes ago myself. Exactly. I think if a kid thinks of an adult that's someone they look up to or they find a friendly face, he's gonna reach out to them a couple times a week. That could very well mean to be significant.
It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
It really is all about, I mean, that's the critical component, and it's essential. We're having conversations right now in our survey about the 27-28 calendar, and one of the questions is about conferences and how to operate conferences. And just in a cursory look today, I found a couple that said, why do we need conferences if we've got grades available online? And it's kind of like, that's not what a conference is all about. Sometimes you have a parent that wants to put your face to theirs and know that you're taking care of your kid. And that's the importance of the relationship. I want to know I can come to you and be able to interact with you. And if we take that away, we lose a lot.
Well, I remember sitting through all the conferences. I didn't want to hear from the teacher what the grades were because I saw that online or through report cards.
Yep.
I wanted to hear, are they behaving in class? Are they interacting nicely with their peers? That kind of thing. So yeah, those conferences are pretty valuable. Not that. Okay, unless there's other discussion, we'll continue this. Oh, sorry.
I'm just thinking back to Maggie's report, that there's concern that students have reported concern around bias and incidents, bias, you know, hate language, things like that at high school, and reporting a feeling of being unsafe at the high school. I think when we look at high school attendance dropping off, we need to consider that is a big part of it sometimes. And it happens at middle school also. I've heard from middle schoolers, those sorts of things happen. So I think when we're looking at it, as a parent of a child who maybe has had that low attendance letter come home, there's nothing in that letter that helps me know how to make my child feel safe at school, so that they want to attend school. And in fact, it often just feels like a guilt trip when there's nothing I can do to improve certain situations. And, you know, I think sometimes those letters can actually be a little bit more been helpful for those chronic low attendance students who have significant reasons why they're.
Well, and that's where we've had conversations, is to be able to say, how do we encourage the meeting to get together to seek resolution? How do we offer up some of these attendance work strategies that families might be able to grab a hold of on their own? Just some things like that. So absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Okay, we'll move on. Safety procedures, specifically around, visits from the immigration and customs enforcement.
And that was also in your packet. Just to put in a couple of different things here. Let's see if that.
One of your tab is your board on track agenda. You can just click on it and take it right.
I don't have to.
On page 27.
Yeah.
It's doing everything. So you gotta stay on that one page there, and then you'll have to rotate it again on the next page. But you can.
So one of the things that we started out, and I took this from Beaverton as a way of being able to say, here's a piece that we can put into place, and they should have draft all across them, but the draft is not showing up in this. Of what staff do and what staff cannot do. So it's about helping create a safe, welcoming school for all students, follow Paloma School District policies and procedures for enrolling and serving immigrant and refugee students, safeguard the rights of students in our care, interrupt and address discriminatory behaviors, including joking, teasing, or speculating about immigration. Do not ask or require any student to share or demonstrate their immigration status. Do not violate district policies and procedures of laws such as FERPA that involve student information, including external requests for student or family information. Do not violate district policies or procedures for enrolling immigrant or refugee students, and do not discriminate against a student, family, or staff member based on perceived component of identity, including immigration status. So it was a way of being able to just do a quick front face. We also have our resolution that the board has adopted. And as a result of some of the legislative actions, that we will be getting formal policy statements that we can be able to handle. What I heard, or what I seem to be hearing, I mean, we want the policy too, but what I'm also hearing is what do we do? And so that was where we went back to some of, I'm moving too fast, too slow. There we go. Went back to our protocols that we use as a district, that it was kind of the aha that we need to bring this back and make sure that everybody understands and is aware. And so this comes from the I Love You Guys Foundation, and it talks about a series of standard operating protocols that, and the naming convention. So a hold is you're in your room or area and the halls are clear. If you are in a secure, you get inside and lock the outside door. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to be in your own classroom, but you're in and nobody else is getting in. because those outside doors are locked. And then it goes on into if you needed to do a lockdown with the lock lights out of sight. Or then you could get into evacuation or shelter as ideas. So wanted to put that back front and center. I don't know that I've done a good enough job to be able to make sure that we know that we have that as protocol for us. And so what we did with the help of some of Lincoln County's work was we said, really what we want to do is we're operating in these kinds of situations with ICE by calling us secure. Everybody in their school or facility with the outside doors locked. If students are already inside, we're locking the outside doors and not letting anyone come in or go out. If students are outside, we are bringing them in for the purposes of the security. So we wanted to go back to something that was a real standard that matched the language of what it is we're doing already in terms of protocol. So, and it says up at the top of it that if outside, all are to get inside quickly and as organized as possible. The action can be used to protect students and staff from a wide range of outdoor threats, including severe weather, dangerous people, AKA ICE as one, aggressive animals or hazardous materials incidents. So we took advantage of the way to take a look at the array of possibilities of why we would do that, instead of labeling it specifically for ICE. So all staff responsibilities, go inside, quick movement, be alert and adjust your route if you need to, follow the instructions, account for all students. What this doesn't get to is the specific of a school plan of who calls the principal to be able to say, I noticed something. And so that's the next piece of it that will get more school specific, but we wanted to be able to highlight kind of the high level piece of that. It gives anyone permission, anyone is authorized to call 911. The other piece that we've debated is there was a communication piece, is adding in all staff responsibilities up above go inside is communication, to be able to say whenever you are outside with students, have a communication device that will get you to your office with you. Lincoln County, who we got the example from, said, take a walkie-talkie with you. And some people don't have walkie-talkies. If I take my student out for an extra recess, I may not have it. But then I need to make sure I have my cell phone or something with me so that I can be able to make that communication. We didn't want to be limiting in that kind of setup.
So, you know, the first one is go inside, but really the first one would be communicate, call the office.
Yep. And so we talked about this at our admin meeting on Tuesday. And so we're coming back around to it with a couple of changes and additions. And I just sent it to Emily and Alice today to be able to say, sorry, we didn't get it out to teachers ahead of time, but I want you to know it's coming. So, you know, then we'll get the additional feedback for where we're going.
So, Susan, I would, given state law, the new changes, our own board policy, our own board resolutions, I would include under secure, dangerous people, you know, unplanned immigration enforcement,
Okay.
right? Something, because I don't want the teachers to have to read through, you know, secure, shelter, all these to figure out, you know, and, you know, I like to think ICE agents aren't dangerous people. They're just, you know, they're government employees. But if they haven't been pre-announced, if the staff is not aware of them, or certainly if the administration isn't aware of them, then we have a problem.
We've talked about that too, just in terms of police, sheriff, or state police presence. They just can't come barreling into a school and do access to a classroom or to the interior core of a school, because we need to know that they're who they say they're going to be. And so
So you could say
Yes.
unannounced immigration or law enforcement.
Yep.
That would be the same.
Absolutely. And then it's about administrator guidelines. And we have, you'll see down there, we got communications for emergencies and safety incidents. We also have what do administrators do? There's some of the things that we're not choosing to put in
public.
a public document, just because we want to be thoughtful about that. But this feels like the key information we want to get out there. So it was heard loud and clear, that policy is coming, and we have,
It's not policy they're looking for.
Right.
It's response manual.
Yep.
And we hopefully it is Emily. My oldest is named Emily, so I should remember that. But hopefully this is more in line with what you're, and by all means, obviously look to the staff to say,
Yeah,
this is great, but it would be helpful if you
Yeah.
include this or.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of the next step of that, to be able to do it,
So
but,
let's put this back on a future agenda or just review where,
Yep.
you know, when you're finally ready to.
Got it.
Yeah, that was my question. What is the timeframe of full deployment? Because you did, earlier you said, you know, you've done enough to kind of get this out. And I assume that that's what you mean by that is like getting information back.
Right.
Feedback.
right, and
Something you can-
this next, I would say possibly, oh, you get another, we can get another update in April. We don't want to send anything to teachers in this next week because it's the week before something break.
Right.
No. Nobody will care. And so, we figure as soon as spring break is over, then we can start introducing it out and getting feedback.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to do the kind of concerted
Yep,
effort of
yeah, I agree. We've got to have everybody own it, in order to make it all of it out.
And then
So,
get trained for it. And I mean, this is the kind of thing, poster on the wall, binder on the shelf, not, they shouldn't have to log in and go search for it. They should be able to pull it off and know, in this situation, here's my step by step.
Yeah, we've talked about, Lincoln County has put together, a whole book, a whole document. And we're thinking about, you know, what's the flip book, or what are those single page items, that we can give people just real clear on a page? And this is where we go with the high leverage thing.
Okay,
So,
good. All right, moving on then. Legislative updates.
that was also in your packet.
Yep.
And there's a couple of things that, that I can highlight. I put a lot of the stuff in there from COSA. There was a good job done with ensuring that other entities took cuts where education did not. Relatively speaking, there are a couple of places where the cuts are new. And so it's doing our due diligence into the future, but things like the local option levy equalization grant, and that being funded for us was a nice thing. And they're not taking money out of the student investment account or Measure 98 or those kinds of things. Our federal title dollars for Title I, Title II professional development, those will be flat. We won't get an increase, but they're not going away in this next year. So those are some things that we know. The co-chairs of the Ways and Means had made a decision that they do not want to access the rainy day fund or the education stability fund. That's really not on their radar of something they want to do. And so that was their piece of information.
I'm sorry, that was COSA or the legislators?
The legislature. COSA wanted it to be used, because actually the education stability fund it can't take any more money into it. Because it's already met, and so that was a concern. The other thing that came up later in the session that was kind of a surprise, that you will see in House Bill 4075, leverage public education funding for the Coos Bay Hospital.
You said they weren't taking like that.
They are. It's just good, and that's why it's the new one. And what it means for the future is the door has now been opened for education funding to be tapped and used as a fill for other things. And do I want a hospital for Coos Bay? Do they need a hospital? Yeah, I think that's important. But where the money is coming from to be able to do that takes it away from the common school fund, but it does also open the door, because the big thing is it takes money away anyway, the estimated 22 million over the 20 years. But what happens if there's a default? If there's a default, that gets to be a bigger hole. And so, this one, it's gonna happen, but it causes us to really do some due diligence in our work with upcoming legislative sessions to be able to make sure we're watching that. The immigration policies were big on that, no additional money for outdoor school. And so Steve Bell and I talked today about what might that look like, and so we're gathering some information. We're not gonna not do it, but it could look different in terms of how it's laid out.
So what does that mean, no new money?
The funding's cut. I'm looking to you because you know it probably better than I do. The funding from the state for outdoor school programs has been cut. And so
Not cut completely.
it's not cut completely, but the idea was to increase it so that, because district won't have enough with what camps were charging and all kinds of things like that. And so it was on the docket to be able to increase the funding so that it would make it more doable for districts to be able to host their outdoor school. For us, we could look at, do we have to institute a fee again for students to be able to participate? The middle school is looking at all kinds of options to be able to say, what could it look like? So, or are we gonna get to a place where we can find a way to make it happen within the budget we've got? I mean, so it's all those kinds of things. The other thing that they didn't add money to was the replacement of Meals for All. So that if federal funding backed down or it wasn't there, that there's no money that this legislative session will put in for Food for All to backfill. Geez. One of the other unfunded was the cardiac emergency response plans in school, so that's something else that we have to create. The epinephrine in schools, our nurses were thrilled because it's really about being able to administer other than inject. So, the conversation about quality education model was taken out, which we think is a good thing. We need to take a look at how education is funded, but to take away all the work of the Quality Education Commission about what it costs to do school would be a big backslide. Yeah, so if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but those were kind of the big ones that I threw in there.
Nope, it's a good summary. Thank you. Did you put that together or was that?
I put the bills together. Kosa did the kind of the overview, because I've been tracking bills for our admin group for a while, just to be able to stay on top of them. Or try.
Okay, nothing else there? Moving on to our action items. First, we have the licensed renewals. This is basically the superintendent's recommendation of what teaching staff will be renewed for 26-27. We have that list. So I would. Second. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, and then we had one teacher that the administration is proposing for a non-renewal. That teacher requested a closed hearing, which we held earlier this evening. And so we now need to consider the recommendation for the non-renewal of that probationary teacher's contract.
I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation and not renew the probationary teacher's contract.
Motion? Second?
That was the motion.
That was.
Second.
Okay, any second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye, passage unanimously. Okay. Moving on, inter-district transfer allowance for 26-27. And this is an action you're looking for us to approve the ratio.
Yes,
Well, a couple of years ago, a year ago, we talked about limited income. That was awful.
We're down, just looking at that, we're down almost 20, yeah, if you take Kings Valley, we're down almost 20 students from this time last year.
That we. Definitely numbers.
Just, yeah, I mean, she's sharing there, but just, that would be 10 inter-district for Blodgett, 20 for Clemens, 14 for the academy, 20 at elementary school, 40 at the high school, and 20. And this would include existing students who are already in their district transfer.
yeah, if existing students who are already inter-district transfers are in,
Right.
they just move forward.
Right. The
to
point
the
is, like,
following grade.
for example, Blodgett has 10. If you already have 5, then there's really only 5 new ones available.
No, we're opening 10.
10 additional.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I would.
How many current students are applying? I didn't look at that list. Is there 10 students that want to?
There's 25, 24, 25 currently at Blodgett, they can handle 35.
Because they're still K4
Right.
with blended, two blended
Yep.
classes.
And
Okay,
This is saying, sorry, Tom,
Good.
this is saying that preferential treatment will be awarded to siblings of current inter-district students, correct?
And the key is who have submitted a current inter-district transfer request form. What we ran into last year was families who had a sibling, but we didn't get an inter-district transfer request form signed off by the resident district until August. At that point, the decisions have already been made, and so we've made communication, each of the schools has made communication with families that they know are inter-district transfers, and, if you have a sibling, heads up, this is coming. And you need to get your form in, because we can't guarantee it once we start accepting. Enrollment is gonna open for enrollment is gonna open for all students on April 16th, which is the day after the kinder open house. And we're telling parents that no later than May 1st, we will begin to make our decisions about who is accepted for inter-district transfer. If it's April 18th that we start making decisions, I'm good with April 18th, but we wanted to give ourselves a window because we ran into some issues last year of how things were put together, and the first time we thought you were doing that and you thought we were doing that, so we wanted to clear up the process.
What is the protocol for that May 1st? Cut out like that date of inter-district transfers, is it coming before that would be approved or denied? And then if there are still open slots, would those just like hang out as open slots?
Yeah, the open slots would just hang.
And so with.
It'd be available.
Yeah, it'd be available.
And then, but in the case that we pass this, we would need to pass this, these inter-district transfers, say that there's 3 spots left in Clemens by the time that May 1st date was by, and we get 3 district students that would come in to fill those spots. What is that? How do we, is that like?
That's why we take
Define.
into account the numbers that we'll take in. Because we've started to look at the trends of considering how many kids do we have at each of the grade levels, and what would we expect? And what might we expect based on conditions in enrollment that would give us more students? And so when you see 10 spots at kindergarten and Clemens primary, we think that that's gonna be a starting number that will allow, we have to take all our Paloma kids, but that's a good start point. It
Right.
could be that we'll find out that our kinder numbers are a little lower of Paloma students in actual registration, and we'll bump that number up.
And in the case that we find out that it's higher, this number will bump down on that without us having.
You have said as a board, excuse me, that you want me to take control of that and report to you. We wanted to put out this initial one to be able to say, here's what we've got and we're ready to move forward. And it's our second year really walking this line. And so we've put a couple more fail safes in place. And so the interdistrict transfer form, Michelle will put online tomorrow. And so parents can start getting that signed by their home district and being able to make the submission. And when they come in, we'll time stamp them and date stamp them. and make our initial decisions and go from there.
So we have a motion from Ryan, second from Aaron, okay. And so all those in favor of the introductory transfer rates? Okay, unanimous, thank you very much. Moving on. Yeah, okay, public complaint. We have a one public complaint against an employee that is being appealed with the superintendent ruled on it, is now being appealed to the board. We also have another complaint directed to the board. So we need to take action on our next step on those.
If you're willing to hear both at once,
Sure.
I move to accept the public complaint and appeal and delegate authority to the board chair to respond to the complaint and appeal.
Thank you. Any other seconds? Okay. So as we discussed, we will look at scheduling hearings to address both of these simultaneously. Why don't we take a quick look at that while we're in this right now? If there's next week and then there's spring break. So let me see if it's possible we could do this next Wednesday or Thursday evening.
Does that give us enough time for you to submit the notice and everything, Michelle?
Yeah. Either of those work over?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay,
I will
then I will go
note
check. And then if obviously the complaint doesn't, that doesn't accommodate, then I will not do it over spring break. We will put it out this weekend.
And you're talking Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Next-
Thursday, okay.
Next Thursday is the winter sports award, so that would
They
be
often,
time to.
they often like right now. And so just, I mean, it can.
Oh, did you mean from a facility perspective? Okay, yeah.
Just as a note.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. Yeah, I'm sure they would. But yeah, I was thinking it would be. I'm already aware that both of these will be in executive session, so we want to big space.
Can I ask you to start at least at 6, 5:30 is the challenge?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, we can discuss, it's 6 or 7 there, because it should be, I would hope, an hour. Perfect.
7.
Okay, all right, 7 o'clock on either Wednesday or Thursday, I'll check with the complaint. Okay, excellent, moving forward.
That also takes care of our.
That was, yes, between that and the action on the non. Yep, okay, moving to our last section, the closing item, board recognition. Congratulations to the girls basketball team for making the tournament. Sounds like they took a defeat today, but maybe they can work their way up the losers bracket. So good luck to them. Exciting.
Something from robotics as well.
Oh, yes, they're regionals. They're off to regional, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we approved their out of state.
they're, that's
Up
where,
in Washington.
yeah, so I looked at that and I thought, oh, yeah, that sounds good.
Weather held out. I heard that the crew days went well.
It cleared in really well, really well.
Should go on.
And the weather, yes.
Yeah.
And also, tonight and a couple more performances of the middle school play, so if you get a chance, go to it. Yep.
All right, anything else? For request? Okay, next meeting agenda items. I'll just recap. So Susan and I will talk about some attendance plans, we're addressing that. We'll also look at 1 or 2 other objectives. To really talk through that.
The safety and ice.
And the safety and ice. Yeah, and that may just be an update. I would hope by May, we would have it firmly in place,
Yes.
so you can, I'm okay if we wait. If you don't have it fully baked, but if you do, then let's look at it.
And we will also bring back policies. We took them off this agenda for tonight. We had some second reads of some policies and we started to believe that the meeting was gonna be long. And so there was no sense of urgency to be able to take care of those tonight, so we're gonna put those on in.
And Michelle, do you get an email from OSBA with an approximation of when they'll have the new policies based on the legislative session, or probably not yet, right? A couple months out even.
I can, I can send an email and ask. Okay.
The other thing, of course, is the busing contract. We
Yeah.
haven't reviewed that, but we are in protest period, and so.
You mentioned we can do that.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
You may need that before a month's out. Okay, so we may, to the hearing next week, we may tag on a 10-minute, 15-minute board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Good call.
yeah, so, yes, I'll let you drive that, but I assume
Okay.
that's yes, excellent point. Okay, any other,
The only other thing I think we could talk about big- Starting. That.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a big deal. It's like
I'm sure that will be part of the
Let's read.
report.
I'm assuming it was this week.
Yeah,
Something right now is the word that came through today, we're gonna talk about it tomorrow, is, are all the approvals from, Benton County and, have they all been left? And, we don't think they've been left,
Is there? I guess it's required.
because, yeah, this was, health and safety, and, I learned how to read blueprints and come up with part numbers for grades and fun things like that. To be able to give them that information so that, they could approve it, and allow us to move forward, but I don't know what stage that's in, so I'm hoping to hear that tomorrow.
They say, no, keep the leaks. No.
okay, I need to go back to board recognition, because it was recommended and I forgot. At the Samaritan Awards, we had several people at this table recognized. Two sitting by me, right, Ryan and Sandy, for their work with 4-H. So, citizenship of the citizen of the year, I believe.
Volunteer.
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 Excuse me.
Yes, and Ryan won the award.
Very good, and you were an honorable mention.
And I would
Something like
Yeah.
that.
that you donated your reward to the yearbook fund at the elementary school. And I did, that was quite lovely, in addition to.
And I also believe, Susan, you were volunteer of the year for Rotary.
Yes,
So-
it was.
So, well done all, and definitely worthy of recognition.
Thank you.
All glad. Okay, now, board thanks. Thanks for,
Thanks, everyone.
We're almost to spring break, thanks for holding it together.
I'll point out that this, I'll pat myself in the back here, your board packet was substantially more manageable this week.
Yes.
than this month, and last week.
Yes,
They won't always be this tight, but they will be a lot better than.
much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, board requests. Anything else? Meeting adjourned. Yeah. Meeting adjourned at 8:22. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now that we're adjourned, I'm going to check for this board members. So I need a little bit more money left for the, elementary school improvement. Last year, some board members, donated something, I don't want to do it. You want to do it this meeting? Okay, I'm gonna do it. Five, I think it's, 250 more now. I need to go back to the email.
We don't want to pay a lot. They tax me. Actually. You're welcome. And we're gonna try to have you. No idea, I'm gonna forget. Yeah.